That is the enthusiasm we're looking for tonight, friends. So these two wonderful people who I get to talk to tonight have inspired me, as I'm sure they've inspired all of you, in ways that they likely will never know. Hopefully they will a little bit by the end of our conversation. They started out together at Second City and have been making us laugh and cringe and laugh ever since. I could go through the resumes, but it would be long and we only have an hour, so I will just say this. Between the films and the TV shows Strangers with Candy, several books that have made us all better crafters, better hosts, better people, and now with At Home with Amy Sedaris, we now have a lifestyle show that we never knew that we were in desperate need of. So it is safe to say that without a doubt, these two people have helped make our world a better, funnier, and more colorful place. Please welcome the creators of At Home with Amy Sedaris and the star, Amy Sedaris and Paul Dinello. Please take a seat. Thank you.
Before you get started,
Oh, God.
we should sing our song as it's Friday night.
Please.
It's Friday night. I'm gonna get drunk. I'm gonna get laid. I'm gonna be late on Monday.
How does it feel to know that that is now a viral sensation?
I know, isn't it crazy?
Every Friday night, it helps me get through the Friday.
Oh, it's sad. That's
No,
sad,
I think
Dan.
it's joyful and positive and inspiring. I'd like to call this evening At Home with Amy and Paul. And I don't know if you can tell by my arts and crafted terrible cue cards that I've put together. I did learn one thing from your show, and that is it's the thought that counts.
Yep.
That's right.
So this is your first time at the 92Y.
It's my first time. Is it
Your
yours?
first
I think
time.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so first of all, I wanted to start out at the beginning, but before that, congratulations are in order for the Emmy nomination.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
First season.
Thank you.
How did that feel? What was that experience like? Do awards
I think we
mean
laughed.
anything? Right.
We laughed, right? I think we were happy and surprised.
Yeah, the last time we were up for something was Cable Ace.
Cable Ace! Woo!
Same thing, basically.
Yeah, same thing.
Well, congratulations. I wanted to start at the beginning.
Okay.
Well, and here's the thing. Feel free to just jump in. If a question's stupid, just tell me. I mean, my ego's very, very fragile, but I'll take it. How did this show come to be? I mean, I know that there are books that have inspired this, but what was the process like in terms of creating this magical show?
Paul? Well, we did the books first.
You know that's on a mic, right?
Yeah, I know. I do know. We
Amy,
did the
why don't you
books
take
first.
this one?
Exactly. All right, take it.
Well, what was the question?
Okay.
It's an offshoot of, I'd say like I mean, it's something we've always talked about, and then Amy's always had a fascination with these local homemaking shows so that you turned me on to, but I was telling someone this story. It kind of fits in with the show, but it was me and Amy and Colbert. We were in the touring company, and we realized we hadn't eaten probably, probably for 12 hours. But we
It's a long time.
Yeah, we didn't have any money, so we decided we'll all pool our money together to see how much money we had to see what we could buy, and all together it was like $6.30.
Wow.
I'm not kidding. That's what it was.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, it was a lot of money, and Colbert and I were panicked, but Amy said, "That's perfect. We'll get a chicken and some rice," and then she made a dinner
With side salad.
with a side salad.
And I had change left over. Because I already had the rice.
Oh, you already
But
have
I
the rice.
remember that.
The rice doesn't go bad. Right, but
And I got pick of the chick, not a whole chicken. There were thighs. That's it.
but she always had like a homemaking side to her.
Yeah.
You know, like it was an exciting challenge to her. Like, what meal can I create
For $6.
for $6.30?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the show is. It's meals on a budget, or like what can I make?
Show on a budget. Yeah. Show on a budget.
I don't want to say that that's the next book idea, but meals for under $6 is something that I would buy for sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
For $6.
I mean, I
That's
don't
tough
cook,
now.
so it's
Oh,
essentially a Big
easy.
Mac.
Oh, Big Mac. Okay,
yeah.
yeah. How much is a Big Mac these days?
$2.67?
Are they? Are they $2.67?
I don't know. I can't remember the last one. In Canada. Which is
Right.
32 cents here in
Yeah.
America.
Right.
But obviously there are references in the show to, you were at one point talking about Lawrence Welk and these shows of the past. How many different shows, or what kind of references?
So many.
are you pulling from?
Lawrence Welk, the music numbers, even Red Skelton, we were inspired by Ernie Kovacs, The Galloping Gourmet, Frugal Gourmet, Julia Childs, Mr. Rogers, Captain Kangaroo, and then Miss Martha Stewart's show, and Flatfoot Contessa, and then, and then the local shows I grew up with. Where it was just, because I played house a lot, and then my brother David and I had a fake cooking show called the Rex and Germelina Show, where we pretended we had an audience. And I just I knew when I was young I was going to do that show. I was like, it's perfect. It's like you just have people over at your house, local people, and have boring conversations as long as you look, a certain way. And then PTL
What was
came
that
on.
way?
Just talk a lot really boring, drawn out. Today we're going to talk to somebody who's related to someone on the Mayflower, and you're like, and then there was PTL and Tammy Faye Baker on another channel who was making the worst dishes. Like she would like, it's St. Patrick's Day, and today we're going to dab a whipped cream green and put it on these Oreo cookies, which I have already crumbled up, and she would do these horrible segments, and I was just like. I love bad ideas more than anything, and plus she was such a character. So, and then we had The Price is Right, so it was just like you could do all these things with an imaginary audience. I had a hit show when I was 8 years old.
I would pay good money to see that show and this show coexist. In terms of going about selling a show like this, generally speaking, selling a show is a really difficult thing to do.
Is it?
Well,
In Canada.
in Canada.
Yeah.
But I think the one thing that I have always admired about your work is that it's so specific and it is so wonderful and dimensional and special. And TV these days, I find, not to generalize, but a lot of it is very simplified. It's geared towards an extremely mass audience. So going about pitching this wonderful gem, how did that come to be, and what was that process like?
We went to a lot of places, actually, and I think luckily we had the books, so we could slide them across the table and say, this is what it looks like. Because when you try to describe it,
Because
people
we
just
didn't
think
really
you're
know what it
exactly
was going to be.
We didn't know. We didn't know at all. I wanted originally to do a 48-minute show, and this one was like, no way. So and it's something that's taken me 18 years to get it up, but it ended up with truTV called and said, we heard you had the show you were pitching, we'd love to hear it. And I liked True because it was a neutral channel. It wasn't like a comedy channel. I thought that's what we were kind of looking for. Like, it's great if it's funny, but it doesn't have to be funny. One of those things. And they were like, we met on a Friday, and they picked it up on a Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we were like, oh, but I didn't know I was going to play so many characters. They just.
And they were great. They were
supportive and.
Yeah, and they said, that wasn't about. Although we ended up getting great guests, but they said we don't care what guests you get. We just want you to do your thing. We don't want to
bother you.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, just do your thing, and gave us a lot of freedom. And then we just created the show. So what it turned into the first season. Yeah.
And that thing that the two of you do is so magnetic and so wonderful and charming, and obviously has resonated with so many people in such a personal way. What do you think it is about what you've put out into the world that has touched people in a variety of different ways?
What do you think it is?
We embrace losers. I don't.
Misfits.
Misfits.
Misfits and outcasts. And also, we're good at off the beaten path. Like, you know, for Strangers, we didn't know we had an audience until Wigfield came out, this book. And then we were like, yeah, who are all these ugly people, like Children of the Corn people coming? And we were like, oh my God, it's our audience for Strangers with Candy. Because we were like, on Friday nights at 5:30, it was like nobody watched, we didn't think anybody watched the show. And we were out in the woods, you know, doing this show, Paul and Stephen and I, just trying to make each other laugh. And then we found out we had this audience, which was really great. And I feel the same way with this show. It's kind of, True is just, you know, kind of learning their thing too. And I kind of like the audience for it. You know, you're going to find it. And I feel like, you know, remember when Phil Hoffman and John C. Reilly started out? You know, you kind of were like, you felt like you discovered them. And then they started doing movies, and then you turned on them because you're like, no, they were my guys. And I kind of feel like our audience is like that. You know, they're very special, and you know, they really have to find us. And I like.
Well, not to
under the
get
radar.
sentimental, but for me, this is such a special night because when I was younger and trying to find my footing, professionally speaking, and trying to find a voice and trying to figure out what meant something to me and what didn't, Strangers with Candy resonated so deeply. I don't know what that says about me. But
You're troubled.
there's something so, you make people feel seen in the work that you do.
Oh,
And it's quite remarkable. And so thank you for that.
Oh, that's nice. But I mean, you do such a good job with that on your show too, Schitt's Creek. I mean, come on. Seriously, that show is so funny. And plus, it is fun. Well, I guess we can relate to sit back and watch you all have fun. I mean, I grew up with Catherine O'Hara and your dad, and Chris Elliott, and it's just like, and you and your sister are so believable and fun, and it really looks like you're watching people have a lot of fun. And that is fun because we have a lot of fun. And I know your background. I mean, my God, being Eugene's son, I mean, that must have been, did you know all those guys, like from SCTV? Did they come over to John Candy, open your refrigerator? And I mean, what was that like?
Yeah, he had at his house, he had candy drawers, which made it really hard for my parents because we would come home and then ask for candy drawers at our house.
Oh, sure.
And they would say, absolutely not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it was, I mean, I think surrounding yourself with colorful people is all you can really do in life.
Right.
And it's amazing to see the people that you, going back to the show, you have surrounded yourself with such amazing talents, both in front of the camera and behind and around. How important is it to both of you to have that level of comfort in terms of the people that you're working with and
You
making
have
sure
to.
that the
You
team
pick your
is in place?
team. It's always about picking a team. I meet people on other shows. I'm like, "What's your name?" Like always. It's always about a list of people that I've worked with, and then like, you know when you meet someone who's a good worker, who's gonna get
Right.
it, and they're not out for themselves, and that's really important. I'm always looking for people to use and abuse. Underpaid. This is with the money I got, $6 chicken. It's all about that. Still.
You've done wonderful work with $6.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed.
Yeah.
The two of you have been working together for so long. Does it get easier? What is it about? I mean, I asked the same thing of my dad and Catherine. I mean, when you find someone that you can collaborate with and that speaks your language, what is that like for the two of you? And clearly it's something that's worked because we're here with this. And
Well,
I mean, there's a shorthand.
there's a shorthand,
and
right?
then and we're not worried about hurting each other's feelings, so that cuts a lot of time.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
You got someone you're like,
How does that
I hurt
play
their
out?
feelings. Oh my God. Well, Paul and Stephen just knew how to, I'm not very good at articulating myself a lot of times, but sometimes if I was really excited about something, they would be like, okay, she really is trying to say something here. And we, the wire broom,
if
the
only
wire
she was
broom,
using words.
vacuum. Right, they would just know how to hear me and understand it and take and then make it happen. I mean, they're
just to
good for
sort of
that.
circle back onto this method of communication, what does
That's
that?
a good way to put it.
I guess, Paul, what does this look like when it's trying to communicate?
That's a good question. Paul, I just get louder and yelling. I don't know.
Like a monkey throwing its feces.
Right.
That's fair. That's fair. But they're more like joke writers. Go on.
What? I mean, it's she'll be laid back, but I mean, you get there's an enthusiasm
Yeah.
when something excites you.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a challenge to to work it in.
Is there an example?
Well, even the
Yes.
books. I want to do a cookbook, and Paul, the only reason it's funny is Paul was making fun of me trying to take something so seriously. It's like, no, this is real. It has to be real. And I'm more like find humor in character work. And Paul and Steve are more like story and writing and the jokes, you know what I mean? I can't read a joke off a page a lot of times, or I go play on someone else's show and it's like, oh, I didn't know that was funny. I like it to come from, how I'm performing it. So I think that's how we all kind of work well together, I think.
Right.
You know.
But to answer your previous, she'll say stuff like, she'll say, do you want to work on this? What was the first? Was more of a cooking book. Where was the it's like a cooking book, and I'll say, okay, I don't know anything about cooking. I'll try to help, and then she's like, can you work in a chapter about rabbit education? I'm like, Amy, I thought it's a cooking book. Just work it in. Just work it in. Get it in
but
there.
I'm like, here's a page of everything I know about rabbit care, and this is what I would feed a rabbit. Like I can do that, give him all the information, and then he whittles it and chops it, and then
In a cooking book.
Try to make it fit in a cooking book.
But it makes sense to me because I do make treats for my rabbit. Yeah, it makes sense. I know. What was it? Colbert would always make fun of me about something. Fish. Nothing like starting something and not remembering it. Anyway, just things like that. He would be like, that just doesn't make any sense. Lamb chops. It was a chapter on fish, but I wanted to make lamb chops. And he's like, do you realize that doesn't make any sense? And I'm like, it does make sense because if someone comes over for fish and they don't like fish, then you should have lamb chops.
Backup.
A lot of it is just arguing. But now Paul's married. I get bumped down. He moves to Maplewood. I get bumped down.
Sure.
He has a baby boy, down. Another baby boy, and down. And and he's got a full-time job. So I'm at the bottom gravel pit.
Feeling terribly unjust.
Yeah, it's really hard to get his attention. I can't believe he's here. How many emails did I get about tonight? I'm like, oh my God.
I'm
I don't
really
wanna
glad you're here.
fight. Yeah.
We're all glad you're here. I would be remiss to not talk about Strangers with Candy. Which, speaking of Emmys, how the fuck did that not get?
We didn't have it. The Emmys Awards.
Was it
Emmy?
pre-em? No. Actually,
Pre-Emmy.
Emmys. Pretty sure the Emmys were around.
1901.
I can triple check.
Oh, no one took us
No, because we were on, I don't think anyone was even aware that the show...
Just drag queens getting ready on Friday at 5:30 with an audience. No.
Both of, Strangers with Candy and then this show have such an amazing specificity to it that I know requires a singular or two of you, like a vision that is very specific. And how do you go about executing this world? Because it's not easy. I mean, from my own experience,
Right.
creating something that you try to, you want it to feel dimensional and textural, and you want people to discover little things in the world that you create. How do you go about doing this?
Well, that's attention to detail. I mean, that's what interests me. I mean, he focuses more on the writing, and I'm more the visual. Like what is this going to look like? What are you going to look at when people stop listening, or you know what I mean? Like when I would watch TV growing up, I would just look at everything in the background more than I would listen to the people talking. You know what I mean? We lived over a deaf girl. This is hilarious. No, we lived over a deaf girl in Chicago, and I remember Gracie, and she came back from the circus. I can't pronounce it. Circus du Soleil. And it was so good because she was explaining everything to us and acting it out. And the next day I went out and bought tumbling books and costumes. And I thought from now on I'm always going to have something visual in a show. So if you're deaf and you can't understand, or if you're illiterate and you can't read something, it's always important for me so someone can see it on a different level. Do you know what I mean? Okay, let me explain. You know what I mean? So the books were like picture books. So if you can't read, I can read. But if you can't read, I'm bragging. I can read, but if you see an image in the book, it might trigger an idea. Or if you're watching the show and you're not paying attention to story, but you could visually look at the
Sure.
the sets and stuff and be inspired on every level.
It's
and
an
that's
offering
important
for
to me.
all people, is basically what this is an inclusive world where everyone fits in.
Right, and it's the inside of the Genie, I Dream a Genie bottle, where she would go down there and you'd be like, oh, I am into that. Like, I want to be in that world. And we did that for Strangers too, like just created a world. So not a lot of pop references. You didn't want to leave anyone out.
It's a timeless space.
Yeah.
Right.
But how do you go about, you have to call upon friends or people,
Exactly.
collaborators from the past to bring it all to life. The
team.
costuming alone is extraordinary.
Yeah, she did Strangers with Candy too, Vicki Farrell. And, the people we got for, Hannah Clark and
The art department.
Mark
Jason.
Eibel for food styling, and Jason Singleton, and Jameson Eaton for hair. It was just crazy, like, just getting that team down. But once you have the team and you trust them, oh my God, you don't have to worry about it. Like if we say we want a walk-in freezer from Jason, he's gonna do it, and we don't have to worry about, he's not gonna ask us a million questions about light bulbs or what's on the rack. It's like people don't ask any questions. It's so refreshing when you trust them and they can do their thing.
That's wonderful.
That's the best. I know
That's
it's
all
hard
you can
to-
ask for.
And then I have my guy, Adam Selman, who's just got his eye on everything, He keeps things for me. And it's really
An
important.
aesthetic coordinator. If
Yes, beyond
Well, he has
that.
perfect taste, so
Yeah.
it works in your favor.
It's okay.
Characters play such a strong part in this show, and I wanted to talk a little bit about where they come from. You both do such amazing character work.
Let's talk about Paul's character work. No, the three characters you have. The kid,
The kid,
the
the geek,
and
and
the
the
geeky
geeky
kid.
kid. Those are
And
my
he
three
plays them really
characters.
well.
A dynamic array.
Yes, and I love to get Paul in on it. He's a jelly neck. I have more
Jeez,
fun. So much fun with, and John Early's kind of the jelly neck of the show. Paul can write really easy for him, and also for Chassie, because Chassie's a big fat liar, and Paul rattles, and the music. It's like, sometimes I can tell in the writer's room if Paul's like in a scene and he's kind of frustrated with it, I'm like, maybe a song, or there's a poem, and then you see the wheels turn, and he's so happy, and he just spits out these songs.
And
It's
you write
crazy.
the songs,
Yep.
which are now ingrained in all of our brains, whether we want them there or not. They're there.
Right.
They're wonderful.
I apologize for that.
Sprinklings on the show. But when it comes down to those characters, Patty Hogg hosting the grief episode. She deserved an Emmy for that.
Oh, wow.
Within the show.
I'd like to accept the award. Patty Hogg. That's kind of a new character.
Where do they come from? They must come from you. Where do you? I can't even begin to ask. But where do you pull these people from?
The bottom of my liquor glass. You know what? They've been the characters I've been dragging around since I was probably 6 years old. You change the wig, you change the name, but they're all kind of, like Ronnie Vino I've played in Princess Carolyn on BoJack, that's Ronnie Vino. In the movie Chef I play her, Broad City I played her. I was kind of figuring her out. She's a little Streisand-y, like a little bit of her. And Nutmeg, I've been taping my nose up since I could walk. And then Jerry Blanks and everything. It's like, they've just been around. But Patty was
Yeah,
pretty
but
new.
you're-
And then I was with...
She's playing it down, but her character work is like it's
Extraordinary.
It's magical, and it makes it really easy. It makes it a lot easier to write for. I love writing for Patty, and she's so well developed. Like I know exactly how she thinks, but it's because of the way that she plays her. And she can bring so much more to it.
I'll tell you, I can't. I remember we were, once you did get her voice down, second season, now she's in every episode, and that's a lot of work. Because Patty takes a lot of energy, and I need to be off book for her. But
Also a lot of lines to learn.
it's a lot, yeah. So Patty, but it was fun, like Jameson, working with the hair and makeup, trying to figure out what she looked like. it's kind of hard for me to do those things because it's like she's in my head, but then I was like, really? It's like doing the exterior of your house. You're like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready to see the outside of the house. I don't want to think about what the outside of the house looks like right now. Can't we get it in post on Getty's or something? You know what I mean? Like, so it's exhausting, but I'm really happy the way she turned out, you know?
Well, she's legendary.
Yeah, and she's a little bit of everybody I've ever met, and a little bit of Colbert's mother-in-law.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah, taking charge. Her laugh is definitely. That's Colbert's mother-in-law, right?
We went, it was Steven's birthday, and we went down. We somehow talked Comedy Central into letting us go rent a beach house in Charleston to write the third season of Strangers. So we were in Charleston. It was Steven's birthday.
And we went to Oops and bought clothes.
Right,
remember?
I dressed like I was from Charleston.
He dressed,
Khaki
he got
pants and
khakis, no one blinked, I'm howling. No one, combed his hair so he'd fit in. Topsiders.
His mother-in-law said they got Steven some gift, but she wanted to be part of it so desperately. She said, he bought it, talking about her, Evie's dad. He bought it, but I told him what to get.
Yeah.
So it was like, so
but
that
I
was
wrapped
always,
it.
yeah.
Then we were like, oh my God, who's this?
So that idea of her was always sort of swirling, because we loved that so much, how she wanted, it was important for Steven to know that she played some sort of part in it.
Yeah. And old money is interesting to me. People with old money are different with people with new money. I mean,
It's far more embedded.
Yes.
It's a deeper.
Oh yeah, heritage. And, yeah.
Yeah. Guest stars are in abundance.
Crazy, right? You got to do our show if we get picked up for a third season. Has to.
Happily, I would pay you to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know what your part would be. Maybe an art dealer?
Sure.
Because I always wanted to do an episode on art. I'm interested in that. And I went to Cindy Sherman's Christmas party last year, and I thought, oh, I know.
So
and
did I.
thought, oh, here's the audience for the show. Because they all knew, oh, that's a Rebecca Morgan, or that's based on a Billy Cotton thing, or that Hugo Guinness. Is that a Darien chair? They all knew a whole other level, which no one else, who's interviewing me from TV Guide won't know, But it was like, oh, wow, this is our crowd. So I thought, oh, it'd be fun to do like, an art piece, having my portrait done or something, and have nutmeg, right on it. But, so maybe you're an art dealer.
Listen, I will happily do anything you ask.
Write it up. Write it.
What kind of guests can we be looking forward to in season 2? Just a little tease and a sizzle for we wanna...
We brought some people back, and then Ann Dowd.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Juliette Lewis. I mean, Shannon came back. Now he's a regular. Now it's like, get out of here. Like the Michael Shannon. But
Anna Gasteyer.
Tom Lennon.
Yeah, Tom Lennon.
Broderick, who was great. Bridget Everett, who I was really starstruck by. I love her.
Michael Stipe came back.
Yep, Michael Stipe came back.
Michael Stipe reading the poem was really something for the ages, for sure.
He does another one on tassels this season. Susan Sarandon does something.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they're just, it's like the Dean Martin roast. I mean, they're just, the names are just, it's hilarious.
Are people knocking down your door? How does that process work? Do you sort of say, oh, I have something that I think Susan Sarandon would be good for?
Well,
I have no idea why they show up.
I don't either. We always say it's for the $600, which is $3 more than what I'm making, but we always think it's like, wow.
We just got really lucky. Yeah,
Or like Paul Giamatti, you wrote that scene like 15 years ago, the businessman scene. Well, you changed it, but we always had him in mind for that, and he was our first guest star.
He was almost too real.
I know. And he ate all those lamb chops before 10 a.m. We had to go out and get more. But Mark Eibald is one of our food stylists, and it's funny, Michael Shannon met him, and he was like, I can't talk to him, I'm so nervous. So it's funny to have people working on set like that anyone who knows who Mark is, it's really fun to watch that. But you get nervous working with big old celebrities, and it's fun to see who's off book and who isn't, and who notices continuity. Who wants to wear their own wardrobe, who's got work done. It's always fun. but they're always great and professional. And I'm always like, oh, I don't want to bother them. Let's get them in and out, and you know.
You're setting me up to ask a question that I just can't ask.
Who's had work on?
100%.
I can't actually think of anyone we've had on the show who's had work on. Have you? I mean, not really. Oh, right, her. All right, her.
I just have to say we have microphones at the front.
Oh.
So we have audience's questions available. And you know, I could keep asking all night, but I want to give you guys a chance to ask some questions.
When's your birthday?
This is, first of all, how pathetic is this intro that I've written
I love it.
on pencil on the back of the hotel thing that I had to hide from. Anyway.
I love that you can even read that.
Well, it speaks
I mean,
to me in the language that I can understand. Questions?
Wow, look at all these people on the balcony. It's so nice. Thanks for being such a great audience. It's the first time we watched an episode with people laughing.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I actually wanted to thank you, first of all, for the tip in your first book about putting marbles in the medicine cabinet.
Did it work? Did you find out who your junkie friends were?
It's the greatest idea I've ever heard in my life. I haven't tried it yet, but
I was gonna ask, did it?
I'm a little bit scared, but when I do, I'm totally gonna ask them to repeat what they find. But my question was actually that Esther and Ruth are like my favorite couple, probably.
I'm happy to hear that.
On television.
I bust my ass in the show, but I'm happy to hear that.
No, they really. I love them so much. I mean, I also like these other two guys in another show that I might be a fan of. But that I just want to know, like, how did they get together? How did you come up with them? How do you not just die with Ruth being so deadpan? Are they ever gonna make out? Like, they're so hot. Like, what is their deal?
What's their game, Paul?
You've really hit a fetish. That's down to.
She's inspired by
Hodgepodge Lodge.
a thing called Hodgepodge Lodge.
A show in the 70s out of Boston.
What's that?
A show from the 70s out of Boston.
Yeah, which was it was a woman who essentially lived in the woods.
A naturalist.
A naturalist. Who lived in the woods, the kind who would bathe in a creek. And she would have kids over. And
dirty kids.
Yeah, dirty kids, and they would do stuff like dissect, a raccoon. Like they would just do.
This is on television?
Can we find this on YouTube?
Yes.
Where do
Yeah.
I see?
Cocoon.
What's it called again?
Hodgepodge Lodge.
Hodgepodge Lodge, everybody.
What era was this?
70s.
Okay. I can't believe I missed that.
Ruth was sort of based on her, and then I just guessed at, at what her personal life would be. Because I always thought of Ruth as sort of a teacher, and they have sort of I like codependent relationships, which they have, and I've been guilty of myself. But
it's another show.
So I mean that's really it. I enjoy that dynamic between them.
It's so awesome.
Because it's never about whatever she's talking about. It's never about that. It's always about. And I always like that she says, "I hope you had a good time." At the end, when it's unbearable to watch because the tension's so thick.
It's so awesome.
Oh, thank you.
And please bring their song back. I missed it.
Oh, it's in some of the episodes.
That episode is running really long, and the opening credits for it's like 30 seconds. So that's why it was cut for that episode. But it'll be in the other episodes.
Okay, well.
The ones that are short. The ones that are short of jokes.
Well, I love your show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Hi, Amy. I love your book so much.
Thank you.
I've tried a couple of the crafts, like the flaming ghost eyes.
Love that.
But my sister turned into a flaming butthole on a butt cake.
Perfect.
Yeah. So
I didn't hear exactly what you said, but I.
afterward.
Uh-huh.
So my question is, even though I'm sure you're very busy now,
I'm very busy.
Yeah. What was the theme of the last party you had at your own house?
Theme is, I'll make you dinner if you do this for me. You know, that's my theme. That's my new thing, a trade. Like, I will, whatever you want to drink, smoke, I'll make for you anything, but I have these chores, you know. Can you get this ladder down? So that's what I do now, because...
It's really smart.
Yeah, it is smart. That's how it has to be, because you got to do me something, I'll do something for you. And now, when people come over that don't know me, I always say, well, since my husband died, I can't. Works like a charm.
Thank you, I'll try that. Thank you.
Works like a charm. That should be the next one.
First of all, big fan of all of your works. And this is specifically a question for Amy in regards to your wonderful character of Princess Carolyn on BoJack Horseman.
Thank you.
You have these like tongue twisters and like sometimes rhyming and lots of alliteration, these packaged pieces of dialogue that seem very technical and difficult. And my question is, what is the writing process, and then what is the rehearsal process for this? Like, do you go into the booth and work on it there, or do you have to like get it in advance? Like, how does that work?
We get a script. We do a read through. They're all in Los Angeles. I'm in New York on my couch. And then I read the script. We all read it together. And then 2 days later, I go to recording studio, and I just do it by myself with the director. And then we just get through it. Some of those tongue twisters, I'm like, oh my God, you know, it's hard. But it's weird doing voiceover work because, you know, I like to improvise, and I like to use my wear and what's around me. And when you're in a booth, you don't know there's a tree behind you until you see the episode. And you're like, oh, I would have mentioned that, or, you know, so I rely heavily on direction when I'm in that. You know, how do you want me to say it? Like, or in half the words I can't even pronounce or read. I'm like, oh, that's how you spell uh-oh? I'm not kidding. Really bad. But I'm not embarrassed to say I don't know what that word is. Like, I've never seen that word spelled on paper. But anyway, that's what it's like.
Thank you so much.
Like, I'm sure so many people here, I'm really looking for inspiration and advice to sort of break into the scene.
Oh, boy.
And so I wonder if you have a recommendation for a covered dish to bring to a potluck?
Oh. Does it have to be hot?
She stands aside as if
I know. Please. My
done you a
I mean, a
service.
covered dish is that traditionally it's hot, right?
Well, I need a lot more information. I don't know who's gonna be there. I mean, if you gotta do it in your car, fruit salad. You know what I mean? You can use canned whipped cream, buy the one with the cherry, half a cherry on top, that stuff. Drain it, mix it, if you're in your car.
Do you add alcohol?
I'm sorry?
Do you add alcohol to the...
I'm not pushing alcohol, lady. I don't know who you are, what you are. I'm not gonna suggest alcohol.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Good luck, good luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, first off, this is for you. I brought this for you.
Well,
I'll go retrieve it.
oh, yes. Dan, what is it?
Oh, it looks like a.
Oh, I know. Oh, wow, that's great. Is she from Mexico?
Yes, I got it in
That's
Guadalajara.
fantastic. Are you from Mexico?
No, Cleveland.
Very similar.
Oh, fantastic. I
brought
follow
it
her on
from
Instagram.
Guadalajara.
I'm crazy about this woman.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. Something
You're
I
welcome.
like. Normally people give you stuff and, it just goes away. This is great.
I like to shop with you in mind.
That's great. I'll put it on the show.
Thank you.
If it lasts till then. No, I'll put it on the show. Thank you. I really am a big fan of hers.
Yes.
Thank you.
My question is, I've been single for almost 10 years now.
Oh.
Do you have any dating advice?
Don't look.
10. I've been single for 20, so you're asking the wrong person. I don't know, maybe it's you. What's going on? Right? I mean, patterns.
Move out of Cleveland, man.
Yeah, move out of Cleveland. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if you're trying. I'm sorry, but I mean, do you want to boyfriend, I'm assuming, or do you are you like?
I'm open.
Are you sad or are you fine? You gotta love yourself before you love anybody else, and that what RuPaul said.
Amen.
There's a lady who's looking for a potluck. Go talk to her. She's perfect for you. Perfect. Lives in a car.
Strictly Dickly. Strictly Dickly.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. No. Yes.
I've been single for 45 years. I don't have to tell anyone in here how great this show is. So I will ask, will there be another book? Because I loved the books. Love, love, love the books. So, or would any new material that would be in the books sort of be manifested in this show?
I don't know. I don't know if it depends on Paul's energy. If there's gonna be I mean, it takes a lot. I did those books out of my apartment. It takes a lot, a crew, you know, it's a lot of work, a lot of your own money. You have to, it's just a lot. And
If
so
I've
I don't
learned
know.
anything from you, it's never enter a party with your arms swinging.
Yeah. Or just showing up with your arms in the
I
air,
don't-
like
well,
nothing
no, I mean, I always
happened.
have something.
Yeah,
I
the lady
always-
at the post office
Yeah.
taught me that.
Yeah.
Helen Ann.
You know what else she teach you?
She taught
Like-
me her favorite number was a 20, a 10, a 5, and a 2. Because a 20, a 10, a 5, and a 1. Because that was what was in a till, like a $20 bills, $10 bills, and so because she was obsessed with making money. And that you hire, you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. And if she gets a bad seat, she's like, if the show's good down there, it's good up here.
Well, I know you were talking with Andy Cohen on the holiday special on
Yes.
Sirius XM, and I thought there was talk of maybe a holiday book.
We talked about it. They wanted, you know, it's funny, I stay away from holidays because they're so personal and there's been so much. But when truTV reached out to us and they said, you know, why don't you do a holiday episode? I was like, no. Where Paul was like, let's do it. And it's one of my favorite episodes. So we did Christmas, and then we did Thanksgiving and Halloween this season. Now I can't get enough of them.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
Hey,
Hey.
you're amazing. So your voice is so specific and unique and different, and I'm curious. All of your voices. And I'm curious about if you could talk a little bit about like the moment when you began to like trust that voice, or what your relationship is to sort of like trusting the things that you're making, because.
I guess because we work together, I don't know how to answer that question. Like, how do we know?
Is it like an acting?
No. I mean, like, because like with your show, it's activating, I think, on something like very different. Like, there's nothing else like it on television, and so I'm curious about like how long it took you to get to the point where you could trust that a show like this would work, or that.
I don't think
We never think anything's gonna work.
Yeah.
To be honest, especially when we work together, it's the same way we always have. Is we sit in a room together, we throw around ideas. You know, if they make us laugh, that like we never try to please anybody. Not because our attitude is like, well, you know, we're not out to please people. It's because we don't think we can. Like I really don't know. Like if someone put a gun to my head and said, you have to write something that's popular, I would have no idea what words to put on a
What
piece of
would you
paper.
put on a piece of paper if someone held a gun to your head and wrote something popular? What would you do? You'd get shot. But you don't think you're doing it for each other, you know? And people who come to work on our shows always say, you can't do that. Remember at
Yeah.
7 or Strangers? Like, you can't do that. That's not TV. We're like, we don't know the rules, so we don't know what we're breaking. We're just doing it the way we all work, you know?
So I mean, and then we just feel fortunate and lucky if anybody else likes it. It's just kind of gravy on, you know.
Gravy.
So yeah, I mean, there's no like, it's always been the same. So I'm always surprised if somebody laughs at something that I wrote. I'm always surprised. Like, oh, wow.
That was really helpful. Thank you.
But to that point, I mean, there is such a closure creatively in putting something out that reflects exactly what you want it to be. Because if it works, great. If it doesn't, you've done exactly what you've wanted. So
Right.
there's such
Right.
a wonderful closure to that experience, which is.
I mean, you guys you work similar. I assume it's stuff that makes you guys laugh
Oh
on that
yeah.
show.
I mean, I don't think we walked into like NBC and they were like, "What the hell?"
Oh,
No,
interesting.
absolutely not.
Oh, really?
The name alone scared everybody.
Oh, sure.
But you know, I mean, I think people respond to specificity. It's what I think has bound us all to your shows and the things that you've created together is the fact that it's unapologetic in its intention and
right, and it's a fool's errand to try to figure out what people will enjoy.
Yeah, you
It
can't.
is. It's just. It's insane.
People want
I-
freshness. They want something they've never seen before.
Fresh.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird too. Like, I think too, because we come from improv. Things are so different when there's a live audience. You know what I mean? And it's hard to do a show like this when there is. I mean, you depend on the crew, and it's about getting the crew on your side and everything. But it is, weird to do a show like this, and you're just like, oh, people were dying during. They must be doctors. Dying. They were laughing
Their
so
beeper
hard.
went off.
But so you never really know how you're doing because you don't hear people laughing.
But it's great because you have control over the whole process.
Right.
Which
Control,
is
power.
Control, power.
Yes, ma'am.
You were saying control and power. No, this question's for all three of you. If
Oh.
you guys didn't write, create, star, being creative, what would you be doing?
Social worker. Seriously.
And I'd be seeing her to
Yes, you
help
would.
me through. How about you? Sweater design.
Sure, yeah. We're wearing other people's sweaters, I guess. Hoping for the best.
How about you?
Me?
Yeah, what would you be
I'm not trained. I'm not trained to do anything. I would starve to death. I'm pretty sure.
It's a remarkable thing to realize that other than what you're doing, I have nothing else to
No, I have no other skill.
Well, I always wanted to work in a women's prison in Raleigh, North Carolina. And then I moved it to social. I wanted to be a social worker because I wanted to get in people's homes and listen to their problems. So I think I can fall back on that. I think I can do that because I'll listen.
I would fund that show myself.
Really?
Yep.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, a social worker. It'll be
A
hilarious.
self-help show.
Yeah.
We go in,
We're
we
the
look
kids.
around.
Yeah.
You ask all the questions, solve the problems. Deep history,
Let's
family
do it.
history
Yes.
problems.
When was the last time you saw him? Let's do it. Whose feces are these on the carpet?
Multiple feces.
Love to see that house. This has been an absolute dream come true.
Oh, look, it's over.
And, I mean, I have more questions. Let me ask one more.
Oh, Aries, Sagittarius.
Great. Tips and tricks.
Okay.
I tried the
Oh.
wine bottle opening thing
Oh.
at a party that I had at my house. The key to that trick is knowing when to stop.
Oh, that's
Because
funny.
I did it, granted, I was having some fun, and kicked it, you have the cork that comes out, and people were very impressed. It's a very impressive trick to try at home, because if you've seen it, you put a wine bottle in a shoe, and then you hit it against a thing, and a cork comes out. Except I did it until the cork came all the way out, and the wine spilled all over my carpet.
Oh. Ooh.
Yeah, I did. Anyway,
Stain
I'm not that
removal.
bright. What is your favorite trick or tip that you've come up with in the 2 seasons that you have made now? Has there been something that you have actually just stopped dead in your tracks and said, well, this is genius?
Oh, like it really worked? Well, the wine.
The wine thing worked.
Yeah,
was
that's a
pretty
good one. That was a good
Yeah,
one.
that was a good one.
It
That
now
was
just looks like a
pretty
blood stain on my floor, which is a conversation starter.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, body outline.
I thought you were gonna say the bottle's shattered and blinded a friend, and
No.
this was a lawsuit coming.
Arguably
that
more
would've been good.
embarrassing.
Trying to think
Well,
what
I
else.
had to be an Inuit, and I wanted my face to be like this, and so I wanted Vicky to make furry gloves that matched my furry thing, so I could just do this in the scene. And then it didn't work.
Okay.
So I was like, how am I going to do it? Because otherwise I didn't have a character, you know? So Adam had given me this athletic tape that a lot of people who work the red carpet tape up their body and make their waist tight. So it's for that kind of thing. So I like, go get that tape, and I wrapped it around my face to push my face forward so I could do the interview like this. It worked, and I was very impressed, and I'm sure no one's ever done that. It was painful, so I was in a bad mood the whole time I had to do that because it was so painful. But that worked.
That's it.
Yeah, worked. Yeah.
20 shows. That's it. That's what we walked
Yeah.
away with.
20 shows.
How's Tina?
Oh, thanks for asking. My boy, Rabbit,
Yeah.
who I thought was a girl.
Sure.
Tina's doing fantastic.
Great.
Thanks for asking. She was my Valentine. He was my Valentine last night.
And if you don't have any more questions, I mean, I'm looking at a clock here, which is telling me we're a little bit over, but if there's anything else, all right. Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being here. Thank you all for coming out. Amy Sedaris and Paul Dinello, everybody.